Okay, my full name is Dolapo Ige. What I do a few things. I'm a SAP consultant, and I've been doing that for over 20 years. SAP is a business enterprise software which used by Fortune 500 companies and small to large size companies. And I also have a home care business, and we supply them with caregivers to look after them at home. So we provide those kind of services too. And I also am heavily involved in the dance entertainment environment. So I host salsa events. We teach people how to dance, and we have social dancing afterwards. So those are the three main things that I do. I was born in England, and then obviously spent like from the age of 4 to about 18 in Nigeria. Growing up through those times, if you look back, those times were very good compared to what we have now in Nigeria. From like 62 to about 1978, those years. Those were very good years in Nigeria if you compare them to what Nigeria is today. Things were working well. We had water, constant water from the taps. We had constant light, electricity. The roads were not overwhelmed. The roads were good. Education was very good because I went to primary school and secondary school in Nigeria. But from about 78 onwards, I personally noticed that things started to go bad. If you did geography, history, and stuff like that, you know what Nigeria has: mineral resources, human capital, oil, petroleum, everything. But the leaders we had squandered all those things. And they're still squandering it today.
What were you saying at that time, though?
That time, if you go back in history, the price of oil at that time and the amount of money Nigerian earned from oil for a long period of time was the largest amount of money revenue they generated from oil. This was during the Shagari area, so and beyond. But what did they do with that money? And now, when we look back and see what's happening today, they shut down all the refineries. We are supposed to be one of the number 9 oil producer in the world. We don't refine anything. All our refineries are shut down. We import fuel, right? So at that time, that was why I just felt that it was going to go down the drain. And that was when I started thinking about leaving Nigeria.
JAPA.
Yes, JAPA. So it's called JAPA today, but then later on, it was called Andrew Don't Go. And then the reason why it was called Andrew Don't Go, the government ran a commercial at that time because they noticed people were leaving. And that was like the slogan in the commercial to deter people from leaving the country. So it was Andrew Don't Go. That actually reinforced my determination to leave Nigeria. So 87, I told my parents, I'm going back to England. I didn't see personally any future for me. And then I also had a desire to move to the US within that space. And I started working on that. And I noticed there was a big demand for SAP consultants in the US. And that's what I used to migrate to the US. And I moved here in 1999. And I've been in this area since then. I think the most important thing for me is, because now I'm at the stage where I want to spend more time in Nigeria. So would I call that JAPA-Reverse or, So I know I'm an older generation, the younger ones want to come out, but I still believe that Nigeria can change around and ebb the flow of JAPA. If we're going to have people JAPA, it should be a very small, minute percentage of the population. It shouldn't be the goal. Because, like you said, the majority of the population is very young. So let's say 50% of 200 million JAPA. Which country is ready to accept 100 million Nigerians? The US, UK, Canada, right? So yes, a small percentage of them will probably achieve those goals of going away and come back when the country is right. But for the majority of Nigerians, the 200 million Nigerians, that strategy won't work. Because number one, level of education is very low. Countries that want immigrants They want the skillful ones. They want the creme that would add value to their economy, to their environment, to their society. Majority of Nigerians will not bring that to them. The population of Nigeria is just too large for that strategy to work. So that's why we have to focus inwards. So the youth have an obligation now. It's not just, you can't be you can't be chilled about it. You have to get up and go and vote for people that you think will make a change to the country, because that's the direction that you need. You need people that would improve the company, create opportunities, jobs, healthcare systems. You just don't want people that will squander all the wealth and resources in Nigeria. So the youth are a big part of this change that should happen in Nigeria and all other African countries. They have to, yes, it might sound challenging, but they have to make it work. They have to stand up and take, like you'll hear people say, take your country back from those who are destroying it. It's their duty. But thinking that more people should leave the country so that we can fix Nigeria, for the number of people in Nigeria, I don't think that's going to work. Africa and countries have to stem the flow of JAPA. Why? First of all, doctors, right? They're leaving in hundreds because the foreign countries are dangling big carrots in front of them. Why can't our own government dangle the same carrots in front of them, and say, oh, you're a medical doctor, this is what you're going to earn if you look after our own people. But no, the foreigners are, enticing them with all sorts of packages and everything. And that's one of the reasons why we should stem that flow. What is it that is making people to JAPA? What is missing that we cannot provide in African countries today? A lot of us have resources. Nigeria is one of the wealthiest countries in the world. Natural resources, not just oil, stones, minerals, steel, everything. But we're not utilizing them. Agriculture, cocoa, farming, all these things. Before oil, Nigeria survived on agricultural products. A lot of these things disappeared because of oil. It's not too late to go back to those things. Nigeria hasn't industrialized at all. So there's a lot of opportunities there. If those things are provided within Nigeria, people that want to JAPA would reduce. For instance, yesterday a friend in Nigeria sent me a message asking when is the next time I'm coming to Nigeria. And I said, January. And he said he wants to discuss something important with me. He needs my help to get his family to the US. The first thing is, if you're a Nigerian citizen, Nigerian passport, you don't have that easy access to the US or to most countries in the world. So if you want to migrate, you want to find out what is the process of migrating. And that's one of the first things I already knew when I did my research when I was coming from England here. I mean, most people in Nigeria think it's just easy, but it's not. Because number one, like I said, the first thing you need to do is, do you have the visa to come here? And most people won't have that. So how do I get one? So I sent him the US immigration link to go and study and understand the process, right, of what you have to do, what are the requirements, and how to go about it. So it's the educational part of it first. Now, some people will read that and decide, oh, I don't want to go through this, or I don't have the requirements. But I don't want to mislead anybody and say, yes, I'm going to help you, or say no, but I want you to have the information first. Then come back and let's talk about it. Do you have the basic requirements? Do you meet? And how it, because one thing is to get a visa, one thing is to have the financial support to do it. And I gave him the two options. You have a green card option, and the other option is by investment. Those are the two main ones, right? And you have to understand and which one is going to be most applicable for you. I don't advise anybody to come here illegally, because once you come here illegally, you cannot work. And if you cannot work, you don't have income. And if you don't have income, you become a liability on somebody, or you're a liability on the system. And that's one thing they don't want. So if you're stuck here in the system without a work permit, you don't have the authorization to work, what most people end up doing is menial jobs. and even the risk, because the employer, if they get caught, is a big fine. And you, the person himself, if you're arrested or if you're caught and find out, you go into the detention and you're locked up. So that's a problem too. And the other thing is, once you're deported, your chances of coming back into the country are almost like zero because you're flagged in the system. So it's not the path that I recommend to anybody. If you have a visitor's visa, there's nothing stopping you to come and visit and see what the country is like, at least for that first time. But if you have plans with a visitor visa to stay, that is what I discourage, right? Yes, Nigeria is hard because of what's happening there, but I don't encourage people to actually stay with a visitor's visa here. It's very tough. It's very tough here. Even the menial jobs that you're looking for, if you're lucky that you get them, they treat you like, like the worst, because they know that you don't have, those that would actually employ you, they know that you don't have the visa, so you cannot complain to anybody, the police or immigration. You can't go and complain, oh, I'm mistreated, or I wasn't paid my salary, or I was paid peanuts. You can't, because you know that you'll be locked up, right? So it's not something I advise at all. So some of the benefits of JAPA, as you call it, or Andrew Donko, we called it back then, is that being outside Nigeria enabled me to build or acquire a lot of skills and other talents that maybe I may not have had if I stayed behind in Nigeria. And I think that's the same for a lot of people that left, like doctors, lawyers, all sort of, especially technical skills or medical skills, we have those skills in Nigeria, but a lot of it, probably what's lacking is equipment, using all the latest equipment that we don't have in Nigeria. So those kind of things make a big difference. But the positive side of that is, now that we've acquired those skills, we should use them to elevate our countries like Nigeria or other countries. Well, technology is number one. Fintech, a lot of that is happening in Nigeria right now. Young people are now creating a lot of, high technology apps in Nigeria. A lot of them looking for funding. So that's the positive side. A lot of the younger generation, or even some of our generation that went outside Nigeria, now coming back into Nigeria, to make things happen. But what is needed from the government is to ensure that basic infrastructure and facilities are good. So the roads are good, education, healthcare systems, power generation. Those things are fundamental to the growth of any country in the Western world or in Africa. If everything was working in Nigeria, I'd rather be in Nigeria because, number one, you're with family. One of the things you don't realize when you leave your country is the disengagement from your bigger family. You disengage from them, right? Yes, we have social media, but you find out a lot of cousins, uncles, brothers, sisters are dispersed globally around the world. That family unit is broken up. We Africans or Nigerians or whatever countries, we're a community-based people. So that's one thing that I actually do miss. Like now, I'm here. My brother is in London. My two sisters are in Nigeria. Right? We're still close, but it's not like when we used to be together. But I think it has had an effect on the closeness of family, of the main family units for, everybody, I'm sure. I think at the point of time when people want to leave, right, that is the last thing on their mind. They're not thinking about that. They're more focused on how do I get to where I'm going? How am I going to survive? And family will be a thing I'll think about. Even if they think about it, it'll be something they'll think about later, right? It might be later and they've now realized that, oh, okay, I've achieved my goal. I'm in UK, I'm in America, but I'm lonely. That is one thing you find a lot of people complain about. I'm lonely. I don't have my parents here. I don't have my sister here, and you're struggling to integrate into an environment where, yes, you're now an African amongst, Americans or African Americans, so you're lonely, you're isolated. A lot of people experience that. And a lot of people go into depression because of that, right? So let's say you leave Nigeria. you get to your destination, you get your visa, you start working, and you build, buy your cars, you have your family, and then you have this great home. So you've arrived, you've made it, right? The American dream. But then also you've disconnected from your roots. That's one thing that a lot of us also culture, language, right? So the next generation that we're bringing up outside Nigeria, majority of them don't speak local languages like Yoruba, Igbo. We don't speak them. English is just what they learn. That disconnection is there. So these are some of the side effects of jackpying or leaving the country, right? Your roots are now outside the country. When you pass away, what's going to happen to your kids? Or even before you pass away, few of them don't even want to go to Nigeria because they're not connected with it. They didn't grow up there. They didn't go to school there. So that's kind of the things that you're going to experience later in life, unless you're taking them back there frequently and they have a connection. But then you find that your generation, by the time you've done 1, 2, 3 generations, they're no longer Nigerians. They might have Nigerian names, but they're not Nigerians anymore, right? So those are the kind of side effects of that you really have to think about. Am I going abroad? Am I going to go and come back, or am I going to go to stay and not forget about Nigeria? Am I going to disconnect? So it depends on the kind of person you are. So that's like a full circle that you really have to assess as well when you want to live.